This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's recording, and we do post this to social media, and wherever I am is the section that is going to be recorded. So just that you're aware of that. Welcome everyone. I'm Edwin Roach, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. I think all of you, because I've been emailing you and connecting with you, and this is our introduction to the Empathy Circle Facilitation Training, and really excited to have all of you here. We're going to be doing introductions in a moment, and I'll just start, just about how I'm doing. I just want to let you know, I'm feeling a little anxious, a little nervous, because I've decided to run for Congress as the empathy candidate. Yep, I've got the paperwork started. I filed with the IRS, and it's like, oh my God, I got so much to do and so many balls to juggle. And so the whole message is going to be, how do we let's create more empathy in society. So that's the whole campaign. So anyway, I'm feeling a little nervous. Usually I feel a bit more grounded here, but just let you know that we're in have a larger cohort today. So I'm going to try to keep things moving quickly so we can get through everything. I want to start by introducing our training team. So if you can wave, we have Bill and Lou, and Bill and Lou were the developers of this training. They developed the core of it. So they've been, we've done 20 or over 20 of these empathy cafes together. It's been a really fantastic training that they developed. And that we keep developing on, and we just keep iterating and improving it all the time. And we have some other trainers too, who are, I'll just go across the screen. Celine, if you can just wave, one of our trainers. She's done many trainings, as well as Larry and Anne too.
Hi.
And we also have with this training, you can take it multiple times. The second time you take it, you can become a trainee, and you do it for about 4 or 5 times. And then you become let's see, somebody asked it for enable live transcripts. There's a transcript. I think you can click down on CC and it'll give you a transcript of what's being said. So you can take the training multiple times, and then and the second time you take it, you can be a trainee to become a trainer of it. We have a couple of trainees here. So I'm going to go across. Dwayne is one of the trainees, and we have another trainee, Linda, and Ralph. I don't see. Oh, there's Ralph. So that's another trainee. Is there any other trainees here? So,
Johnny's here.
oh, Johnny are you here?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Johnny's a trainee. You can add trainee to your end of your name. And the trainees, our team meets 30 minutes before and kind of sets up everything. So with that, that's my part. I just introduce everything here, and I pass it on to the team, and I'll be doing all the background stuff. I'm kind of like the Wizard of Oz in the background with all the different levers, making the rooms and all that kind of stuff. So I will pass it on to Anne, who's going to have everyone introduce themselves.
Good, thank you, Edwin. So we'll do a round of introductions for the participants. And if you'd like to say your name and where you're from and why you want to do the empathy training, but we'll limit it to just 30 seconds each because we're quite a large group at the moment. So I'll call who is going to go first and then let you know who'll be next. So we'll go as I find my way around the screen. So Tracy, putting you on the spot there, would you be happy to go first, please? And after Tracy, we'll go to Claire.
Yes, so Tracy Steady. I live in Australia, originally from England. And why I want to do the Empathy Cafe is I believe empathy is really important, both self-empathy and empathy for others. And that's why I want to learn more, so I can facilitate a group like this, so I can help people. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Claire, and after Claire, Katherine, please.
Is it Claire du Chateau you're
Yes,
to?
please, Claire.
So that's me. Yes. So I'm Claire, and I am French. I live in England, and I want to do the training because I feel that empathy helps us to communicate better, to understand each other better, and ultimately to feel more connected as human beings.
Thank you, Claire. Katherine, and after Katherine, Mitch.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katherine James. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's on the east coast of the U.S. For those of you in international areas, I'm really interested in empathy facilitator training for multiple levels. I guess in corporate America and at government levels, I'm very interested in how we uphold our democracy by facilitating, listening to people's experiences for why they believe what they believe. And I think that's important in just freedom. And at the corporate level, I work with startups who build resilience and mitigate stress and burnout in corporate America and corporate, worldwide. So I really think it's important to have this background to help other people have empathy as well as myself. And at a personal level, I think it's just a basic foundation for staying connected with other human beings.
Thank you. And over to Mitch, and after Mitch, Swan, if you would go then, please.
My name is Mitch Zorn. I live in Los Angeles. I'm a retired aerospace engineer. My son suffers from depression, anxiety, and insomnia. I'm taking this class or these cohorts so I can be more empathic with him. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch. After Swan, Arlene, please.
Hi, my name is Swan. I'm taking this course because I'm very excited to bring it to the community and want to also take them deeper into learning about empathy and bringing empathy to life. And also it helps me to learn also. So I'm very excited about taking this journey with you guys today and becoming an Empathy Circle Facilitator as well, and many other things I'm excited about in this process, this journey with you guys. So thank you.
Swan. Did you say what part of the world you were in?
Oh no, I'm from Virginia in the US.
Okay, thank you, Swan. So Arlene next, please, and after Arlene, would Cara go, please?
Hi, my name is Arlene Zorin, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. It's actually Chatsworth in the San Fernando Valley. I'm here because I want to learn how to be more empathetic with our son, who, as Mitch had mentioned, suffers from depression and anxiety and insomnia. And I just want to learn and do so much better for his welfare and for other people as well that I come into contact with. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Arlene. Cara, and after Cara, Linda Curry, please.
Hi, I'm Cara Jean. I take Cara things. I am out of the Pacific Northwest in the United States, a teeny little corner of Washington State on the desert side. And I am coming to the empathy cohorts because I think facilitating empathy is foundational to all things human.
Thank you. The screen jumped. Hold on, I've lost Linda, it was, I said, next. And after Linda, Dorothy, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Linda Curry, and I'm calling in here from Berkeley, California, which is just across the bay from San Francisco. And I'm interested in doing the empathy training because, well, I know Edwin, and I've known about this, and I've tried out a couple of the intros. And I'm also the co-founder and director of a nonprofit. And I just fully believe that the mission of this organization, that really being heard and being seen and being felt can solve probably all of our problems. And we have just so much connection in the world with nature too. So I think I'd like to bring this to myself personally, my family, and my community. Thank you.
Thank you. And after Dorothy, Hannah.
Hi, I'm Dorothy from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where there's French and English and other languages too. I'm taking this because I think Linda said it so well. It's on a personal level at home with my family, people that I meet outside every day, and then in my own practice in my community.
Okay, thank you. Hannah, I think I invited you next, didn't I? And then Ruth, please.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm from Finland, but I live in Sweden. And I'm interested in empathy circles because I'm involved in Extinction Rebellion, which is a climate movement. And I would like to incorporate empathy circles into the local group that I'm involved in.
Hi, I'm Ruth. I live in London, England. Sorry, forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, empathy. Yeah, I'd like to kind of develop. I've done, I did it during lockdown. I did a couple of sessions with Lou and some other people that look really familiar, and I think as well. Yeah, and I noticed a difference. So I'd kind of like to, develop that muscle and hopefully apply it to as many people as possible that I meet.
Thanks, Ruth. And putting you on the spot again now. Faith, would you be happy to go next, followed by Tracy?
Yes, my name is Faith, or Faith Saunders, or Faith McCalla, same person. I am here in New Jersey. I'm originally from Jamaica, and I would like to do this one, to be more empathetic for myself first, and then also to share it with others, especially in the work that I do. Thank you.
I've already gone, Anne.
Okay. Amy, I don't think you've gone, have you? The screen is jumping an awful lot, so no. So Jeremy, would you go next, please?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy. I'm currently in Berkeley, California, but from the valley near Chatsworth, like someone said earlier. I'm doing this training because I want to cultivate empathy in my own life, for myself and, people in my social circle, but also because I want to learn about how I can bring that into practice, and dealing with like different social environmental crises, and how we can kind of understand the emotions and experiences of different groups and really relate. So I'm really happy to be here with all of you guys.
Thank you. So Karen, would you go next, please?
Yes, thanks. So my name is Katherine. I'm based in Paris, France. We develop Empathy Circle within Extinction Rebellion France, within the local groups, in person and even online. We have a training as well. And I'm there to update my skills because this is a practice we have to do every day, all life. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. I think Altonya. Is it Altonya? Is that how you say your name? Would you be happy to go next? Followed by Aaron?
Hi, I'm Altonya Shepherd. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am taking this training as a trainee. I'm looking to incorporate this more into my work. We provide life management and family services to people in Philadelphia. So I'm looking to incorporate this more into our work, especially our family planning process.
Thank you. And over then to Aaron, followed by Isa.
Hi everyone, my name is Aaron. I'm currently in Lincolnshire in the UK. I'm taking this training to revise my empathic listening skills and to deepen them. The main, in my own life especially, and also for the work I do, I work with young people, and a lot of my colleagues struggle to speak to each other and also struggle to listen to young people who are struggling. So I think these skills and tools could facilitate both working relationships and teacher-pupil relationships. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. And Isa? And after Isa, Valerie, have you been? Valerie Mala?
No, I have not gone yet.
Okay, thank you. So Isa and then Valerie.
Yes, so my name is Isa Brown. I'm from Aruba, and I want to be able to facilitate empathy circles. I think it's very important to be a very good active listener and to really have empathic presence. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Valerie Muller, and I think I might have got everybody then. Is there anybody who hasn't had a go yet? Hasn't introduced themselves? Elizabeth. After Valerie, then Elizabeth, please.
Hi, everyone. So I am Valerie, and I'm joining in from New Westminster in British Columbia in Canada. Similar to what Kara and Jeremy and Hannah and Aaron and I think Isa were saying I'm interested in learning to enhance techniques for while still interacting with different difficult topics. For instance, in British Columbia, right now across Canada, we're dealing a lot with colonialism and the effects of that, Indigenous people, race relations and different things. And a lot of topics opening up just about the name of the province, British Columbia, the name of where I live, which is New Westminster, Westminster, of course, being in England. These are very difficult topics that make everybody uncomfortable. And I think the way to deal with them is with empathy. And so I'm looking forward to learning more techniques, how to do that.
Thank you, Valerie. Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Beth. You can call me Beth. I'm in Sacramento, California. I agree really with Kara that empathy is foundational to all human emotion. And unless we get that right, probably nothing else goes very well. That's why I'm taking this. Thank you.
Okay, now please, will you let me know if I've missed you, because some people joined after we started, I think.
Amy.
Anybody still to go?
Amy.
Yeah, you missed me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where, Amy? There you are.
Yeah,
Apologies,
it's kind of
Amy.
dark.
I'm on
Yeah,
an
it's
iPad
fine.
now. It's been difficult tracking everyone. Apologies.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay. Hi, I'm Princess. My name is Princess, and I am from Nigeria. I live in the capital, Abuja. And I am here because I work with a target group that needs a lot of empathy. And so I want to equip myself better on how to relate with this target group. But much more than that, I feel that a lot of young people, a lot of youth around my community need a lot of empathy, need listening, need attention. And I want to be equipped enough to give them this support. Thank you.
Anyone I've missed? Okay, so I'm going to hand over now to Celine, who will talk about some of the rest of the evening or morning where you are or wherever.
Thank
Celine.
you, Anne. I'm so excited to be meeting you all. It's just the most beautiful cohort. So we're getting ready for an adventure together. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the purpose of the training and the Empathy Circle practice, which is to create a culture of empathy worldwide. And the learning outcomes we hope you take away from this training are, one, that you understand and become familiar with the goals, the values, and the core structure of the Empathy Circle so that you can guide others through the experience. And two, that you deepen your experience and skill of being an Empathy Circle facilitator, and you'll get plenty of chance to practice. Three, that you become aware of your strengths and learning edges as a facilitator, and to learn to respond to typical challenges that arise sometimes in an Empathy Circle. Four, that you leave this training having established strong bonds and a sense of community with each other. Also, that you continue to support each other with your training and growth towards building a culture of empathy. And you'll be learning about empathy buddy calls and other ways in which you're going to build these relationships. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the arc of the course. We have 5 sessions. In the first session, the goal is to review the Empathy Circle practice, be introduced to some of the core values of the culture of empathy, and to experience the benefits of the practice. And when I'm done, at some point, you will be asked, if you haven't done so yet, to place what are your best values, your 3 top values in the Mentimeter. So in the second session, we'll focus on practicing the how-to introductions and to begin to facilitate an Empathy Circle. This is learning by doing. This is the most we'll be talking today. After that, it's all doing. In the third session, we'll demonstrate the how-to again, and we'll present more challenging circle situations if you feel ready. In the fourth session, we'll get more time to facilitate and discuss challenges that might arise. And in the fifth session, we'll integrate your learnings and gather feedback about your experience. So this is the beginning of a big and wonderful journey for us all. So now I'm going to pass to Bill, who's going to talk about core values and principles of a culture of empathy.
So welcome, glad to see you all here. We are trying to create a culture of empathy. That is quite distinct from a cult of empathy. A culture exists in harmony within the larger culture, society, and a cult will have the other as demonized, and you will have to adhere to strict rules without any sort of perspective, and that's not what we're doing here. And so that's why we have these values. So one of the things that you will learn to deal with is sort of the art of facilitating. And that's using the rules in order to create the Empathy Circle experience. And so these values are still a work in progress. You may have others that are similar. That's fine. So we have empathy, of course, and that's basically a commitment to really listen to someone and to understand them as they would like to be understood. Mutuality, and that's that it's not just for one person or the other, but everybody gets to be heard and listen. Openness, that we try to be as open as possible. Doesn't mean you have to, rattle the skeletons in your closet, but that you're honest and open about how you're feeling, because that leads to a real exchange of feelings and acceptance too. And then care, having a sense of what's necessary for the health, welfare, and well-being of oneself and others. And again, you may have other core values, honesty instead of openness, and that's fine. But just remember that this is not a cult, but we're trying to create a culture where these things would be practiced every day. All right, and I'll pass it back to Edwin.
Yeah, so we had sent out a link to the Mentimeter. It's a place where you could fill out your 3 most important values. So I think 34 people have done that. And let me just give a show. I'm going to do a screen share here of just, we want to just hear what everyone's values are, because that's part of empathy, to hear where people are and what is important to them. And here is the list of values that everyone shared. Empathy is a big one. Honesty, care, compassion, love, respect, loyalty, diversity, discovery, integrity, trust, equity, kindness, openness. So these are just some of the values that the participants here are saying are important to them. And what we're going to be doing in a little bit is going into our empathy circles to discuss how those values relate to the value of empathy and to a culture of empathy. But before we do that, we're going to have Larry is going to just share the how-to, just a quick how to take part in an empathy circle. Everyone here has taken part in an empathy circle before, so pretty much knows the process. We're just going to have a short recap by Larry. So take it away, Larry.
Okay, so we've all been in empathy circles and we're pretty familiar with them already. We want to remember that the facilitator will volunteer to be the first listener. And after that, the facilitator will become the speaker. And the facilitator will be given a certain amount of time, like 3, 4, or 5 minutes. And of course, they don't speak through the whole time. They give a couple of ideas and then pause to develop that relationship with the listener. So there's a speaking and listening going on between the speaker and the active listener until all of the time is used up. And then whoever was the listener becomes the new speaker. Everyone else in the group is a silent listener practicing the empathic listening. And that's what a lot of this is about, is really practicing that, you could say, state of mind of being empathic, so that we're learning this by practicing. We're exercising this just like you would exercise in a gym. We're practicing empathy. And are there any questions? All right, back to you, Edwin.
We're passing it on to Linda, who's going to explain what we're going to do in the circle.
Did you want just tell them about the breakout room, or do you want me to do
just
it? I don't need
the
to do a
breakout room.
demonstration. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, we will go into our individual breakout rooms, our separate breakout rooms. If everyone is in the room, that room is being recorded. So I'm just telling you that in case anybody have any objections to that. You will have at least one facilitator in the room, and we will just do the process, go through the process. I would ask that be conscious of the fact that everybody's first language is not English, and vice versa, whatever the other language is. So we want to, be clear in our speech, so we make sure that the person is being heard. Okay. So Edwin will beam us up, and then we'll have, is it 4 or 5 minutes, Edwin?
We do 5-minute turns.
5-minute turns. This will be about an hour and a half, and then we'll all come back in for a debriefing.
Okay, so I'm going to post the question. Our question for this one, because what we're trying to do here is get grounded in a culture of empathy, that it's not just the practice of the empathy circle that we're looking at and exploring here. We're setting the larger context of how do your values relate to empathy and a culture of empathy. So I'll post it in the topic. The topic here is how does one of your values relate to empathy or a culture of empathy? Or as usual, you can always speak about whatever's alive for you, but really try to take one of those values, maybe more of them, and how do they relate to empathy? So we had some people dropping in and out. Some people I think are having internet problems. Lou just dropped out. He said they had a power outage there where he is. So there's always an issue of setting up these rooms. We're going to have an hour and a half in the circle. yeah, we're having an hour and a half in the empathy circle, and then we'll come back for the last half hour for a group debrief. And we have in the first circle is, let me see, we'll have Dwayne facilitating with Bill there, and I'll be there as well. Then the second one is Anne, and then the next one is Celine, and then Larry and Ralph and Linda are the facilitators in each of the rooms. So see you
Edwin,
yes.
Edwin, do you want to just say, should we just say hello to Andrea, who's just arrived after the introductions and hasn't said, we haven't said hello to her yet.
Do you want,
Andrea, would you like to?
Oh, go ahead.
Hello, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm working on it, but I'm glad to be here.
Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, so people jumping in and out. So hopefully, if you drop out, I'll be in the main room. And then if you drop out and come back in, you'll come into that main room, and then I'll try to send you to the room that you dropped out from. So see you there. Hannah, okay, yep, or Hannah. So yeah, and Swan, you should be in another room, should have moved, and then Amy. This is the main room here, and then so if people drop out, like I said, they'll be popping in here. So, and then I'll be passing them. So Amy, and there should be one other person here, but Amy, yeah, so we're all set. Yeah, so yeah, take it away, Dwayne.
Okay. You want me to introduce?
Just facilitate, keep time, 5-minute turns, and be the first listener. So I think everybody knows how to do the empathy circle.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna be facilitating today. My name is Dwayne Hearn. I'd like to welcome everybody. And as Edwin mentioned earlier, our first question is, how does one or more of your values relate to empathy or cultural empathy? And, or as usual, whatever's alive for you today. I'm gonna be the first listener. And Amy, I was wondering if you would like to be the first speaker. And just as a reminder, we have 5 minutes. I want to remind all speakers to pause for a few, to pause after you spoke for a few seconds to give the person who's listening an opportunity to reflect back. And as mentioned earlier, we're going to go for about an hour and a half. And so after, I want to encourage you to pick someone who hasn't gone. And then once everyone's had a turn, you'll be able to pick whoever you'd like to at that point. So Amy, would you like to be the first speaker?
Amy looks frozen.
Yes. Okay, I think I'll go ahead and ask Hannah to be the first speaker, and then we'll come back to Amy when she's connected. Is that okay with you, Hannah?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And I'll do it.
Yeah. Will you do you have a signal for time?
Yes,
or how do I, okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, well, one of the values that I wrote was openness. And I guess the way I relate that to empathy is that whenever you encounter another person, you're open to whatever is alive for them, or whatever is present in that moment.
Thank you. Hannah, if appreciating what you said, one of the values that you wrote was openness. And you think that openness is important, you know, whenever you're meeting someone new and open to, you know, whatever is happening for them in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that also goes hand in hand with not being judgmental about anything, but just taking whatever is here and not making judgments about it. Is it good or bad, or is there anything like not even jumping into like, okay, what do I need to do about this, but just being there openly.
You also talked about the importance of not being judgmental and being really present and being open to whatever is happening there in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what else? To be honest, I'm struggling a bit to grasp the whole concept of empathy because it feels very I don't know, intuitive maybe, or like very, it's hard to maybe describe in words even or relate to these things.
You know, it's interesting because you're having a challenging time really talking about or defining empathy in a sense, because, you know, is it intuitive? Is it something that is written and defined that you follow? But the challenge is really describing and putting into words what it really means.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think I can actually come up with anything else right now. So I think I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Hannah. And now I become the speaker. And Bill, would you like to listen?
Sure, Dwayne, I'd be happy to.
Before that, Swan, which room were you in? I can't, or you hadn't been assigned a room?
No, I'm sorry. Sorry if I interrupted anyone. I'm sorry. My internet cut out, and so it made me leave. It just cut me out of the room, so I had to reconnect.
Were you in another room with someone, or it just you never got in the room?
No, I did get assigned, but then it cut me out. But I think it was
who were you with?
Room 7, I believe.
Or room 7 with Ralph?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move you.
I believe.
Okay, there you go. Hopefully you can make the transition. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, and just for a really quick sec, I just want to check in and see if, Amy, are you able to hear us now? Hello, Amy, are you there?
She's muted. Oh, and she's also trying to come in again.
Yeah, she's having internet problems.
Okay, well, we will.
There she is.
Hello, Amy, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm so sorry. The network keeps taking me out.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm the facilitating the group, and right now I'm the speaker, and Bill's going to be my listener. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
One of the core values that hello? Oh, okay.
I can hear you, Dwayne. Please go ahead.
Okay. And Bill's actually going to be my listener.
Okay.
Yes. All right. One of the values that I picked was self-love, I think, as a core value. And I think self-love is foundational for everything in life.
So one of the core values that you picked was self-love is very important. And you think that that's the foundation for a lot of things in life.
Yes, I believe that I view the world based on how I feel about I view and experience the world based on how I feel about myself.
So you're saying that your perceptions of the world are colored by how you feel yourself, about yourself.
Yes. And so for me, first and foremost, I have a responsibility to myself to learn to love myself without any conditions.
So when trying to, negotiate with the world, you have to feel that it's important for you to start with unconditional love for yourself.
Yes, and I think that loving myself without conditions, not, focused on understanding, accepting myself as I am, and focused on continued personal growth and development is really important for me as it relates to becoming compassionately empathetic.
So you see that this core value of unconditional self-love is critical to your growth because you're not perfect. And so in other words, but nevertheless, if you say, oh, I'm not perfect, I'm terrible, then nothing gets done. But if you give yourself unconditional self-love, then you find you're strengthened in your process of growing and becoming a better person.
Because for me, anything that I do in life, first and foremost, is about my own personal growth and development.
Right. So you start with that. When you make a decision about what you're going to do, you consider your own personal growth and development first.
Yes. And I've found, though, that the more I work to improve myself, the more I work to become less judgmental, to become more compassionate, empathetic, to be more kind, that I'm able, when I take care of myself first, I'm better at doing those things.
So you find that once you give yourself, unconditional self-love and you kind of take care of yourself, you're better able to help other people.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so first and foremost, I'm always working on myself and, want to learn and grow and learning how to be a better person. And also at the same time, making sure that I'm taking action to contribute something positive to the world that I'm living in.
So you find that, integral to your feeling of self-growth is that, unconditional self-love, which then is core to your identity, is helping other people, making the world a better place.
Yes. And so that's my primary reason for becoming involved with Empathy Circles, Empathy Cafe, with this movement that you all have created. I think it's an excellent vehicle for contributing something positive to the world that I'm living in.
So you find that this practice and the empathy circles and practicing empathic listening fits well with your own personal ideas of improving yourself and society.
Yes, thank you, Bill. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. Amy, are you there? Can you listen?
Yes, I can, please.
Okay. Yeah, and it might be a good idea to keep, you probably already know this, but your video off, and that might help you free up some bandwidth. So, okay. Well, let's see. There are a lot of things that the value that I focus on is care. And I'll stop there. You want to reflect that, Amy? Did you hear me? Amy, can you hear me?
Yes, please. I hear you, Bill.
So the first thing I said is that the value that I focused on was care. Just reflect that.
You say the value.
Maybe if we all turn our video off, it's
Okay.
That sometimes gives the person more bandwidth.
Okay. How you doing, Amy? Can you hear me now? We can't hear you. You got cut off.
I can hear you. I can hear you, Bill.
Okay, so that first thing is care. All right. And the reason why is that there are a lot of procedures and rules to the empathy circle, to everything. But the key, I think, to an empathic culture is to administer those rules, or whatever you want to call them, with care. I'll stop there.
So you say, I hear you say that there are rules.
Okay. All right.
I'll listen. Bill.
Yeah,
It's like
okay.
it's just going to be difficult. It's like I don't know if she's going to have enough bandwidth for this, but this is a good challenge. Yeah. So
Yeah, this is a
difficult.
challenge. Well, you budding
So
facilitators out there.
So yeah, I'm hearing that it's one of your values is care, and that's important to you.
Right. As an example, we have time limits. For me, this is my opinion, the art of facilitating is balancing the needs of the people in the room and with the structure.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that the facilitation is a balancing of two things: the needs, everyone's needs, as well as the structure and how that's balanced.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the reason I'm so involved here is that I've noticed in my job my former job, I retired as a special education teacher. The core to my work was making my students feel heard. Once they felt heard, they were quite difficult and quite frequently very violent. But once they felt heard, then we could talk about it. I'll stop there.
So the reason you're interested in doing this work, why you've been so involved in it, because you've seen that as a teacher, that your students, it was all about them feeling heard. It was issues, violence, but once they felt heard, that was really what worked.
Right. And also that feeling of being heard is a basic core need. Even a baby, even though he can't understand or she can't understand language, likes to babble and then also have that babble reflected. That's actually critical for pre-language. I'll stop there.
So you're saying that there's sort of this human need for being heard. Even babies, they need to be heard with their babble. They appreciate the babble that comes back when they feel heard.
Right, and it's not necessarily intellectual, but it's emotional. It's like I say something and somebody notices me, recognizes me. I feel valued. I'll stop there.
Yeah, it's that being heard is more than just the verbal. It's like just being seen. You're physically being heard and seen.
Right. So in a healthy development, a baby is heard and also feels emotionally supported by that. And then that leads directly to the development of oral language. And that leads to the development of reading skills. And when that doesn't happen, then you have people who feel disempowered. 85% of the people in prison have a reading disability.
So you're seeing the developmental path that really babies need to be heard and seen, acknowledged, and that develops over time. And it's their development is enhanced, their reading ability and all the other skills are based on that. And the people who are in prison, a high percentage, 80 some odd percent, have reading difficulties.
Mhm. Thank you, Edwin. I feel fully heard.
Okay, I'll speak to Hannah then.
Okay, I just want to pause for a second and have a quick question for you, Edwin.
Sure.
When we have a situation where someone's having a challenging time staying connected, at what point would you decide to suggest to them that they come back at a different time, or how would you address that?
Yeah, so I'll just reflect that. You're wondering, like, if somebody's having difficulty, like Amy, connecting, how do you sort of handle that? How do you say, well, maybe better if you come back because it's just not working? And I'll speak to Hannah and say, yeah, it's a really hard thing. We want to be inclusive. That's part of the value, is to be inclusive. And but at some point it just doesn't work, and there's no hard and fast rule, that I have. You have to sort of be intuitive, I think, about it.
So I reflect back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying that in these difficult situations, it's hard to know where the lines are. Like where do you draw the line? Because they can be quite sensitive, I guess.
Yeah, we want to be inclusive, but then sometimes the connection is so bad, it's like it creates a lot of sort of stress. I feel, oh, there's stress. Are we going to be heard? Can we do this? And so it is quite stressful to be dealing with that. But then on the other hand, we want to be inclusive too, and really try hard to be inclusive. So yeah, it's a sort of a balancing act.
Yeah, so you're saying it's a difficult balance to strike between wanting to include everyone and not exclude anyone, but also take others into account and not stress them out through that.
Yeah, and if you're dealing with conflict, here where there's no conflict, but if you're doing like I've done mediation circles where there's conflict, and it just bad connections and all the technical stuff just raises the stress and conflict level. So, I always say if there's any sort of conflict, I mean, you just can't have technical issues like this.
Yeah, so you're saying that this is compared to maybe a conflict situation, this is still like a relatively maybe a bit easier to handle, but if there's conflict involved as well, then technical issues can be very more challenging.
Yeah, so it might be that if Amy comes in again, it might be just, okay, Amy, it looks like it's not working, but maybe you can just listen or something. So you got to kind of play it by ear, try to find solutions. Sometimes turning all the video off helps, so yeah, it's a tough challenge that Dwayne's dealing with here. So just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, so it could be that in these situations, or in this situation, maybe Amy comes back, or you could try turning off the video or trying different ways to make it work. But yeah, it is still a difficult situation to deal with.
Yeah, so so we'll just have to see. It's like just kind of balancing. Yeah, it's so. I guess it's something to talk about in the circle too. It's like, how do we deal with this? So it's something that gets support on.
Yeah, so it is a balancing act, and we talk about it in the circles as well, and how to handle this situation.
Yeah, and how does that relate to the values? Because it's the values, right? Empathy. We want Amy to feel heard and supported on one hand, but it's just not working. How do you? So it is like it really ties in with the topic of the values. Like wanting to be inclusive, wanting to be open, wanting to be So. But then sometimes just technically it doesn't work and there's nothing we can do about it.
Mm. So sometimes these the situation does tie into the values as well that we've talked about, like openness and being inclusive, and yeah, and we want to make sure that Amy is heard as well. But sometimes there's nothing you can do about technical issues and things.
Yeah. So I think that's probably close to my time anyway. I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Yeah. Could you listen for me?
Sure. Be happy to listen.
Great, thank you. Yeah, okay. I need to gather my thoughts for a bit because I thought of many different things while I was listening.
And appreciating what you said, you think it's important for you to take a moment to gather yourself and, you know, think about some of the things that are going on with you right now and what you'd like to share.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought of was what Bill said about being heard is not just verbal.
One of the things that you could relate to that Bill mentioned earlier, that this idea of things not being verbal.
Yes, exactly. Because I think I have definitely been in many situations where I've maybe told another person something and they have responded in a way that is verbally maybe it seems empathetic, but somehow it doesn't feel like that.
It's interesting. You've had an experience where you've told someone something, and verbally it feels like they're being empathetic, but not really. You don't really get the sense that they're actually empathizing with you in reality.
Yes, exactly. And it is really interesting to think about, like, what is it really then? The factor that makes the difference between these situations. When is someone saying something? When is it genuine and when is it not genuine?
And so you've also been thinking about, you know, when someone's communicating with you, what's, in a sense, are they really being genuine, or they're just using words? And it's challenging to know the difference sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the difference could somehow be like whether, like, are you really present in this moment, or are you sort of in your head? Or at least for me, I feel that when I am really present in my body as well, then I can see the other person on another level.
And, you know, it's interesting because you started out speaking generally about the difference might be being present, and then you personalized and thought, you know, for you, the difference really is being present. And that's enables you to know whether feelings are real or not.
Yes, exactly. And it's not one of the values that I wrote down, but now that I think of it, actually presence might be for me like one of the most important values with empathy. I don't know if you can be fully empathetic if you're not present with the other person.
It's interesting because reflecting now about the core values you put down, you thought I didn't put down present, but actually being present, what some people call being mindful, is one of the most important things for you in terms of being able to have the capacity to be empathetic to others.
Exactly. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Okay. Edwin, would you like to listen?
Mm-hmm.
Be my listener? It's interesting. You know, Hannah mentioned the importance of being present. And I agree. I think it's really important. And so for me, I'm having a really challenging experience this afternoon.
Yeah, so Hannah's talking about the importance of presence, and you agree with that, and you're mentioning you're having a challenging situation at the moment, or this afternoon.
Yes, exactly. I'm visiting my family in New Orleans, so I'm currently at my sister's home.
Yeah, you're visiting your sister in New Orleans.
And so I have my wife and my mom, my other sister, they're having a conversation in the other room that I can hear.
Yes, there's some distractions. You can hear a conversation in the other room that you can overhear.
And my nephew, who's 13, is responsible for taking care of 2 finches for the weekend. But him and my other sister went to the NFC championship game in Los Angeles, so they're behind me.
So right behind you are 2 finches, which were supposed to be taken care of, sounds like, by your nephew, but he's not there. So you got that distraction. So you have talking about presence. It's hard to be present, I think you're saying, with all these distractions.
Well, it definitely creates a challenge. And then along with one of, the other members of the cohort coming in and out, it's been really interesting.
Yeah, so still another challenge with presence is with a person dropping in and out. So that's kind of interesting. Sounds like around the issue of presence.
And at the same time, it's really a great opportunity for me to really practice being mindful, to really focus on being present and really actively listening.
And you're like appreciating the challenge that, hey, you get to have all these challenges with your presence, and how do you really listen within all the things that are going on?
And so I'm really enjoying this opportunity because, if I'm able to, do a good job of facilitating with all the different variables that are present, then it'll be much easier for me moving forward to eventually become a trainer and be able to contribute more to this community.
So you're appreciating the challenges, because if you can address these challenges, it'll make you a better facilitator and be able to contribute more to the community. Trying to have a positive attitude there about it, and really, yeah.
Exactly. And, it's interesting because there's a certain magic that takes place being present and participating in these conversations. And so I enjoy and I get energized from this process.
And you notice that being present here, that there's this energy that gets created and you feel energized from this process. You're just sort of noticing that in yourself.
Yes. And the more present I am and the other members who are participating in this conversation, the stronger I get.
And the more you are able to be in these conversations, you're feeling a sense of strength. You're getting stronger by taking part.
And I'm reminded of how important it is for people to have an opportunity to speak, for people to feel heard, and how that contributes to building community, whether it's in a small group of people or in a larger community.
And so you're noticing or addressing how, for any size of a group, just for people to feel heard, how that really builds a community, be it a large group or a small group.
Thank you. Edwin, I feel fully heard.
Okay, I'll speak to Bill then.
Listening.
Yeah, this topic of presence, I think, is huge in terms of listening and empathy. Like presence is like a core aspect to it.
So you're talking about the value of presence, and you think that's core to the empathy process.
And when there's all these things happening, you know, the person dropping in and out, the audio is bad. It does seem to, I can feel the extra level of stress that happens. That it doesn't have that just pure, deeper presence, you know, which feels really good. And all the distractions and stuff, it adds this level of kind of stress to the relating.
So one of the challenges when we do this over Zoom or technical aspect is that when there are problems, specifically technical problems, it adds to the stress, and that kind of interferes with the being present and the empathy, the smooth flow of the empathy circle.
But that's kind of reality. That's life, right? It's like you got all this stuff going on, all these thoughts that we have. So we have to kind of deal with that reality, as well as, you know, trying to create a sense of presence. And myself, I'm kind of doing the management. I see all the rooms here. I'm trying to, you know, document everything. So I feel a little guilty too, because my presence is over here kind of filling out some of these, you know, keeping track of where everything's happening. So I can sense my presence is also not 100% here.
So you were talking about, you know, well, technical aspects, and also your job as producer is to manage the technical aspects of the rooms and monitor them and things like that. So you're feeling a little bit guilty because then that splits your focus. And so you can't say you're 100% present.
And I feel like for people like with Hannah, you know, who are just starting to take the training, I think, oh my goodness, she's probably feeling all this stress and distraction, you know. So I have a real sense of care for the participants, that I want them to have a good experience. So I also feel some concern. I feel like concern comes up that, oh, there's all this different stuff going on. Will they be having a good experience? So that's also going on in the back of my mind.
Right. So if the split focus wasn't bad enough, then you also have like concern for Hannah, but also other new people who are experiencing the empathy circle for the first time, and, you know, worrying whether they'll have, like, you know, what we call some of the circle experience, or
Yeah.
they'll be distracted and won't feel it.
Yeah, it's that feeling of presence when everybody's really connected. It's smooth. It's all, you know, just feels really good. Everybody's sharing. Everybody feels included. There's just kind of a beautiful feeling that happens. But then when there's all this stuff going on, it's like, oh my God, do I want to be here? So I want to know, I hope I love Dwayne's attitude. Is like, I learned from this, I get stronger by it. So that's my attitude too. And I really love that. Yeah.
So there's concern about all the distractions and how that can impact the process, because you know what it is like when it's flowing like really freely, and that's very special. And then, but nevertheless, it's real life. You have to deal with it, and you really like Dwayne's attitude, which is sort of like, you know, well, that's part of life. It's explain. I'll just kind of learn how to deal with it and go on.
Yeah, and get stronger by doing it. You get some sort of resilience, I think, when you're able to sort of meet those stressful challenges, and you get able to get through it and you survive. I survived the stress.
So when you're able to overcome the, you know, the technical, whatever the difficulties are, and then, you know, move ahead, it builds resilience and confidence in one's skills.
And that's what the training is. The next 3 sessions is stress, you know, getting a little bit of stress. So you kind of build that resilience. So it is really what the training is about, is facilitating, getting experience in how we deal with the challenges that come up.
So you circled back to kind of an overview of the course, in that the next 3 sessions you are facilitating, but you learn to deal with a certain amount of stress, a little bit of stress, or as much as you're ready for. And so that's the key to being a successful facilitator, is to, number one, understand what a well-functioning circle is like, and then number two, when difficulties arrive, being able to put it back on track.
And so again, I'm circle back around to the presence. So that quality of presence, which, being fully there, fully sort of sensing the whole bodily experience of the other person, and how stresses, any kind of stress, anxiety sort of inhibits that flow, that energetic flow. And it's just good to be aware of that.
So you're really circling back to presence, and not only your presence, but feeling the presence of the speaker, and that how technical or whatever difficulties can interfere with that, and that the experience is not to eliminate all those, but to experience them and to build resilience and how to deal with them.
I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. All right. I'll talk to Hannah.
I'm listening.
Okay. Well, I'll go to openness, and the value of openness. And it's sort of tricky because we all have heard the three letters TMI, too much information, when people overshare. I'll stop there.
Okay, you're thinking about the value of openness and how that relates to empathy, and the fact that we've all heard this expression before, that someone is giving too much information or sharing too much. Right.
And I think openness is important. But also in facilitating and understanding, it's good to be aware of boundaries. I'll stop there.
And you think that openness is an important value in empathy and in facilitating these circles, but that it is also important to be aware of boundaries.
Right. So part of the practice is to develop insight into what a person is saying, but also the underlying feelings and values that a person might be feeling. I'll stop there.
So it's important to practice the listening, not just for what the person is saying, but also what might be underlying it, the feelings and emotions behind it.
Right. And so so sometimes when you read into what a person is saying, that you've crossed a line for that. Everybody's boundaries are different. And so sometimes when you try to get insightful into their feelings or values, you cross a line, and then you have to step back, in my opinion. Thanks.
So you believe that sometimes when you're reading into what another person is saying, or more like what is behind emotions and feelings behind what someone is saying, sometimes it might happen that you cross some kind of a boundary or line, and that then you think that you need to take a step back. Yeah.
And so one person who I was reflecting said, and I kind of touched on an underlying feeling, said, "You're correct, but I didn't actually say that," which was meaning that I'm kind of straying a little bit close to the line. And so I kind of focused more on the words that they were saying rather than trying to interpret them.
So you had this experience where someone that was speaking and you're reflecting back said that you had been correct, but that's not what they had actually said, and that was maybe a signal that you had gone a bit too far, like you were on the border of that, and that you then decided to focus more on the words instead of interpreting what was going on behind them.
And this is I think, a core skill of facilitating, and that is really noticing what's right for one person at this particular time and respecting that and responding to that. I'll stop there.
And you believe that in facilitating, that is like one of the really important skills to have, to be able to determine what is right for this person in this moment and what are their own unique needs.
Right. And in contrast, I've repeated, the words that someone said, and somebody kind of criticized me. Well, you got the words, you're just parroting, but you didn't really get the underlying feelings. So that's the sort of the humor and the art of facilitating, and realizing that, as Ken Kesey, who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, said, we're all bozos on the same bus.
And you're talking, and then also you've had this experience that sometimes the opposite happens, where if you're only reflecting on the words, then the other person maybe feels that you're not going deep enough, and that we maybe need to approach this with a bit of humor as well.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. I'm not sure. Okay, maybe Edwin, would you?
Okay, listening.
This is an interesting topic, boundaries and openness and oversharing. It definitely brings up a lot of different thoughts for me as well.
So this issue of boundaries and oversharing is like an interesting topic to you. Sounds like lots coming up around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I find that sometimes, I don't know, I don't think that it's necessarily true, but I think sometimes we maybe confuse empathy with always being open to everything and always accepting everything, whatever another person might be sharing or kind of giving to us.
So you think that empathy is sometimes understood as just being open to everything and just taking everything in that others are sharing.
Exactly. But it's maybe hard to determine the difference exactly, because you want to be present and accepting and open, but also you don't want to maybe take what the other person is saying or giving and take it inside, sort of.
Yeah, you're wanting to be open to what the person is saying, maybe the energies that they have, but you don't want to take it into yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it feels like it goes too far, like you're not just there as a presence, but more like you're sort of taking their experience and putting it on your shoulders.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it feels like you're not just there to sort of to listen to them, but they're sort of dumping it on you, and you're kind of taking it in a sort of maybe like a weight, a burden, or
yeah, exactly. And it's I think those are very difficult situations when you don't want to hurt anyone and you want to be kind to them and you want to allow them to talk about whatever they're going through, but also you want to keep some kind of a boundary and protect yourself as well.
So you're wanting to listen to them and have this to be supportive to others, to to be able to speak, but you also want to have a boundary too. That's just not them kind of dumping everything on you.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't really have any answers to that. I guess what would be the best way to make sure that I do have this boundary that also allows me to listen to other people. But I guess it's just something that's good to keep in mind, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like this is something that you're actually dealing with yourself personally. How do you handle this? You don't have any real clear answer to it, but you're just posing the question and kind of examining, sitting with, looking maybe for an answer.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's actually it for now.
Okay.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Then I'll speak to Dwayne.
Okay.
Yeah, Hannah keeps bringing up all these interesting topics, presence and now kind of boundaries. And I guess I'll add to that. I think the empathy circle, the structure models how to have it be mutual. So I'll start with that.
Appreciating what you said, Edwin. You mentioned that, Hannah keeps raising some really interesting topics for the conversation. And you also talked about how the empathy circle process creates the space to have some boundaries.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you're listening to me. I'm sort of, maybe sharing and dumping. And with getting the reflection, when you give a reflection, it sort of, I find, at least when I give a reflection, it sort of grounds me. It's like, hey, this is your stuff. You might be trying to dump it on me, but I reflect it back. And it's just a mirror to hold it up to the person. So it's almost like it's like an anti-dumping process.
You used the term anti-dumping process, and you talked about, for you, when you're reflecting back, because at times people will have a tendency to dump things, and by reflecting back, you act as a mirror, and in some sense, kind of your superpower to protect you from internalizing other people's issues.
Yeah, it's in a sense, it's also the healthier way of doing it. It's not just protection, but it's a healthier way of relating, right? It's like a lot of times empaths say, oh, I have to shut myself off and I have to protect myself and all this kind of stuff. But this is like, hey, which is not necessarily, I think, the most healthy way of being. But if you're saying, I'm holding up a mirror to you so you can see yourself, it's actually constructive for the other person too. It's the most helpful thing for them too, to work through their issues. And it creates a clear sense of me and you. So it creates a sense of self-other differentiation. And so I guess I'm seeing it, trying to say it's more of a healthy approach than having to, that I'm doing it because I have to protect myself. It's like, hey, this is a healthier way of relating.
It's interesting because you see this really as a healthier way of relating to someone, not simply protecting yourself. And so there's an opportunity there to really hold up a mirror to the other person and to give them an opportunity to see their words and what they're expressing. And it's much healthier than this idea that some empathic people do, where they feel like they have to cover themselves up and protect themselves. No, this is an opportunity for both people involved.
Yeah,
the way our
exactly.
process works.
Yeah, and then the other part is that it's mutual. It's not like, hey, I'm the dumping ground forever. You're just gonna talk and talk and talk and dump on me. The empathy circle is, I'm here to reflect back what you have to say. I'm glad to listen to you. It's healthy listening, but then I get to talk too. And you get to reflect back for me. So there's a sense of mutuality, which is one of the terms we have as a core value, that the empathy is mutual. It's just not a one-way, and people do that so much, just talk and talk and talk, and they don't let you have a space to speak.
It's interesting because you expressed one of the core values of this empathy process, and that's the mutuality of it, the opportunity that both people have an opportunity to share and speak. And that's one of the really positive things about this process, and actually one of the most important things about it.
Yeah, and there's then the issue becomes, how do you bring people into that mutuality? Like here we have a clear agreement, we agree up front, but if you're out just with your family, friends, you know, where you're having issues, you know, to be able to say, can we have this type of a relationship where we both listen to each other, we both hear each other, and can we kind of practice this? And it's hard because people, you know, don't necessarily want to change their structure of how they relate. So that's kind of where one of the challenges is. And yeah.
It's interesting because for you, you know, we're able to create this mutuality in the empathy circle process. The challenge is, how do we take this, or how we introduce this in the rest of our lives? Because, you know, generally speaking, some people have this pattern of just talking and not listening, or in some cases not even allowing you the opportunity to reflect back or contribute. So this is one of the challenges that's out there as it relates to.
Feel fully heard. Thanks, Dwayne.
Thank you, Edwin. And now it's my turn. And Bill, would you like to listen to me once again?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
This conversation, yeah, I agree, Edwin. Hannah's introduced a lot of interesting topics that are really, for me, I find them interesting to talk about.
So you feel that Hannah's introduced a lot of topics that are very interesting to you, stimulating.
Yes, and this idea, you know, it's interesting because part of my personal philosophy of life is I want to be able to really empathically listen to people that I care about.
So one of your core values or practices in life is to empathetically listen to people that you care about.
Yes, and so the challenge for me at one time was exactly what we've been talking about, this idea of creating the mutuality there. And so I came up with the process to help facilitate that.
So one of the core values was mutuality. So you came up with a process to facilitate that mutuality.
Yes, I tell the people that I care about, my friends, if you have a challenge, an issue that you're facing, I'm willing to talk about solutions all day long.
So you say that if someone close to you is having a problem or an issue or challenge, you say that you're willing to listen to them all day long.
Yes. However, you only have 5 minutes to explain what the challenge is that you're working with.
So, yeah, but you only got 5 minutes to basically encapsulate what the challenge is.
Yeah. Anything beyond that, I point to the restroom and I remind him that that's much a time-tested method for eliminating waste.
Okay, so anything more than 5 minutes, you kind of use the analogy of a restroom. That's a way of eliminating waste.
Yeah, and so if you need to simply let go of things, there's the restroom. And when you're finished, come back and let's focus on working through this and let's talk about solutions. And I'm here as long as you need me to talk about solutions.
Right. So differentiating between, I would say, creative solutions and just simply dumping, say that you go to the restroom if you need to do that, that's fine. But then come back, I'll still be here and I'll talk with you all day long about solutions.
Yes. And I'm made the commitment to do the same thing to you. I'm making sure that if I'm sharing a challenging situation that I have, I limit the amount of time that I share the issue, and then we can talk about solutions.
So it's not just a rule that you impose upon others, but you impose upon yourself as well. So that you'll take no more than 5 minutes to talk about the issue, and then you'll spend the rest of the time talking about solutions.
Yes. And, one other part of that for me is, and it relates again back to what Hannah mentioned about being present. For me, I make sure that, and I'm not perfect at it, but it's always my intention to make sure that I take care of myself first before I enter into a conversation.
So one of the ways that you practice self-care in these situations is that you give yourself self-care before you enter into a situation like this.
Yes. And I have 5 core affirmations that I reflect upon. And one of them is that I'm the most important person in my life.
So one of the core affirmations that you have, trying to remember, is that you are the most important person in your life.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it sounds selfish, but actually when I'm at the center of my life, when I focus on finding value in myself, all my other roles are actually enhanced. I'm a better brother, a better husband, a better uncle, a better facilitator, a better participant. Everything that I do is enhanced when I take care of myself first.
So you said that it sounds selfish, but actually when you put it into practice, you find that your ability to care for other people is greatly enhanced when you take care of yourself first and you really check in with yourself.
Thank you, Bill. I feel fully heard.
Great. Okay, go to Edwin.
Listening.
Okay. So I am thinking about what, Dwayne said about self-care, and I've heard some say that self-care is sort of like a false argument for whatever superiority, let's just say.
Mm-hmm. You've heard people say that sense of self-care that Dwayne is talking about is something about superiority. So it sounds like they're kind of negative about it.
Right. That it's not real, the other thing is that many people, sort of take on responsibility for, things that happened before they were born, and they are guilty just by association. I'll stop there.
And another view is sort of taking on just responsibility for kind of everything, even but for things that happened before you were born, they take on responsibility for that.
Right. And that's, there's some truth to that. And certainly we're all conditioned. We're not perfect, and our societies are not perfect. So sometimes we're conditioned with bad habits and not really seeing other people.
Yes, there might be something to that, that we're conditioned through that to not see people.
But at the core, it's a foul. I mean, research doesn't support that. In other words, if someone's doing something wrong or bad and you want to change their behavior, blaming and shaming them doesn't necessarily lead to change. Constructive.
So it sounds like you have some concerns about blaming and shaming people, that it doesn't really work to have change, make people change just by blaming and shaming them.
Right, because again, being a special education teacher, the first thing we had to do, my students felt bad enough about themselves and guilty enough about themselves to begin with, and sometimes they did things that were reprehensible too. I mean, let's not, they were reprehensible, and they, you wouldn't want to have that happen to you or anybody that, you love. But you started by identifying the strengths and then encouraging in their capacity to express, their strengths, pro-social strengths.
So the students you had sounds like a lot of them already had a lot of blame and shame for themselves, and the way that you would address that is sort of to try to hear them and see their strengths as a first step.
Right. And this quite often is misinterpreted as sort of like, oh, everything is good and you. And no, no, but we are all a mixed bag. And we do have strengths. We have weaknesses and we have strengths. And if you look, you will find strengths. And then if that's real, not only does that reinforce the student that you've recognized that, but then if it's real, they'll see their strength reflected in their actions in society because it's a strength.
So that approach of trying to see the student's strength is somehow dismissed by people. So and you're saying no, it actually works. It's because once you see the strengths that's kind of reflected to them, then they maybe grow into it or develop it more.
Right, and they see that, but it also develops trust. Because as a teacher, if I saw a strength in a student and then they saw that reflected in reality, and then I had to suggest, hey, this is not a strength, this is a weakness, they knew that I wasn't just going to blame them, but that I wanted them to get better.
So it had another positive aspect, is that when you did that, you were developing trust with the students. And in that way, when they had trust, when you were pointing out things that maybe weren't good, or that then they actually had more trust to sort of take that in.
And I'll end with a short little anecdote. There's one of my students who was, really beautiful person. And they got upset, but they could fly off the handle and be quite violent. I'll stop there.
And you're wanting to tell a story about how that happened with one of the students who could just really fly off the handle and get violent.
Right.
That's the time.
Okay. Yeah, no, I will. And so they said to me, goes, I'm really a good person. I don't mean to, to do this. And I said, there is not 1 second that I don't trust that you're a good person. But we have to deal with this another way rather than throwing a chair.
Yeah, so the student said, I'm really a good person. He said, I trust that you're a good person. We have to be able to deal with this in another way than throwing a chair.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, yes, thanks. Speak to Hannah.
I'm listening.
Yeah, what is coming up for me? Yeah, all these somebody's going to be coming into the room. She's coming really late, but I said that she could come. So just giving you a heads up if you want to reflect that.
Oh, sorry. Yes, okay. So you wanted to give us a heads up that there's someone new coming into the room.
Yeah, so I said it was okay if Marion came, so she's arriving now.
Yeah, so sorry for
That's
being
fine.
late.
Okay, yeah, welcome. So anyway, I'm speaking to Hannah. She's reflecting. We're in the middle of the circle. Just give you a heads up. So yeah, Hannah, if you'd reflect that.
So you just wanted to say that it's okay for a new person to come in, and that you want to get back to the circle.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing, somehow what's coming up is because I'm running for Congress, like all these values is what we need to bring into society. I think that we do these empathy circles in these little groups, and then you go out into society and, we kind of get beaten up. People don't really listen. That we need to take this message to the highest levels, to the political highest levels like Congress. So that's where my thinking is take these values of listening, of presence, of empathy, of constructive dialogue to the wider culture.
So you're reflecting on, as you're running for Congress, or thinking about how we take these we practice empathy circles. We do it in very smaller scale, and you're thinking about how we need to take these values onto like a higher level, sort of.
Yeah, so wouldn't it be great if all the politicians were doing empathy circles, like in Congress, the Republicans and Democrats, every month they would have an empathy circle with each other? I mean, that's what I'm advocating for. One of my, things is we want the Democrats and Republicans to have empathy circles with each other.
So one of the things you're really advocating for is for these two opposing groups, Republicans and Democrats, to hold empathy circles with each other on a regular basis.
And when Trump runs in 2024 against Biden, we want them to have an empathy circle, a national televised empathy circle with each other. So that's what the campaign is about, is like, can we move these values into the national discussion,
So you're thinking it would be great, or a dream is to have this empathy circle between Trump and Biden, and to move these values into the wider society and political context.
Yeah, and it's an international campaign too, that anyone can, even if you're living in another country outside the United States, you can actually volunteer on the campaign. I checked, so legally you can volunteer. You just can't give money, and you can't have like decision-making capacity, but you can volunteer, like hold empathy circles in our district online and stuff like that. So it's just putting it out there. Volunteer, folks.
So you want to let everyone know that even people living outside of the US can volunteer and hold empathy circles and give their time. They just can't donate money. I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and have decision-making. Like if there's campaign decision-making, you can't have a decision-making process, but you can volunteer.
Yeah, so you can volunteer your time, but you can't be involved in the decision-making in the campaign.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited about that. It's like, this is what happens is we have all these great empathy circles, but how do we bring it into the national discussion? It's like we need to scale it up and make this just like XR, where Marion is from, is you're trying to get to the public awareness and bring it into the decision making, into the parliaments or Congress or whatever. And I think that's what we need to do with the empathy movement.
So you're thinking that these empathy circles we're having on a smaller scale are great, but we need to scale it up and take it to the wider society, to the public, and where the decisions are made.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I would talk to you that just came in. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. If that's okay.
Yeah, I'm a bit impressed, and I'm like very new. I never practiced, with some American people. So I'm gonna do my best if I have to reformulate, but I'm like, whoa, maybe another level that I'm not. I hope my English would be good enough, to follow up.
Yeah, I'm not American either, so I feel you with that. Not my
Speaks
first
much
language.
better English than I do.
Oh, it's fine. It's great. Okay, so if you're ready, I would start. I guess I kind of want to go back to what we talked about before, with self-love and self-care and how that relates to empathy.
I'll see if we function in the same way here in France as you do. So you want to go back to self-love and how to give yourself some empathy. Yourself.
Yeah, because we discussed that before, and I think, yeah, it's interesting how, like, what is self-love really? Because we tend to sometimes we tend to think that self-love is like somehow you need to do something actively in order to love yourself. You need to somehow give yourself kindness, or you need to take some steps to take care of yourself, like you need to exercise, for example, or things like that.
Most of the time we understand like taking care of yourself or loving yourself is having a bath, like going outside yourself to go for and search for love, while empathy is like being in love with yourself right now. Am I interpreting?
Or you're doing good. Yeah, because it while I do think that it is important to kind of look at maybe some of the patterns of how you behave and what you do, and try to develop yourself in a way, I still believe that it's also important to recognize that you care for yourself regardless of what you do.
Okay. I understand, or I hear for you, taking care of yourself and loving yourself is just like being in the now, not doing anything, but just taking. Can you develop?
Yeah, what I mean is that that it's not necessarily, to me personally, I feel that it's not necessarily always that I need to do something, but more just that whatever is here is okay, and that I recognize that there is some pure inherent goodness in me, no matter what I do in life.
So for you, indeed, it's not like going outside and search for love, but like being there present with yourself, and then you feel it then. You feel like taking care of yourself, being with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, I guess it comes back again to presence and just being with whatever is here and feeling like recognizing the underlying kindness or presence or goodness that's here. And to me, that's self-love, like recognizing it and acknowledging it.
Okay, so you would define self-love with presence and listening to your own self, and going deeper. I understood something like underlying, so maybe going deeper than like looking around for love, but then listening to yourself and being in the now.
Yes, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Okay, is it my turn to pick someone?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone like Dwayne or Bill? Wasn't to? Yeah.
Sure,
None of you
I'd
have
be happy to listen.
Okay, thanks, Dwayne. Okay, I'll keep on with the subject of self-love maybe, and then being in the now. I discovered nonviolent communication, and which was meant to be maybe a tool or something to help me to communicate with others. And then I realized I got a tool to communicate with myself. And thanks to empathy and the Empathy Circle especially, I realized that it wasn't
Can I ask you to pause for a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. You want to stick with the Marion. You'd like to stick with the theme of self-love and being present. And you talked about how you discovered nonviolent communication as a means for communicating with others. But what you found was it actually helped enhance your self-communication as well.
I thought I knew before how to take care of people, and then I realized I didn't know how to take care of myself. You know what I mean?
Yes. So if I understand what you said, it's interesting because you wanted to learn how to communicate with others and take care of others, and in the process realize that you might not know how to really take care of yourself.
For me, empathy was something that you was something that you have naturally, and I realized that I didn't have. It's not because I love others that I had empathy, because I was not able to listen to them really.
You thought that empathy was something that naturally occurred inside of us, inside of you, and it wasn't that you weren't able to love people, but you realized you weren't really listening to them.
It's a bit more subtle than that, because empathy is not love, it's not sympathy either, but it's being present with someone. I don't know, for me there was no limits. I couldn't really, I was mixing up all those: sympathy, helping, altruism, you know what, and then empathy was something completely different. When I understood that, I didn't have to interpret, I didn't have to help, to guide, to counsel. I was just being there. Was already something big.
Appreciating what you said, Marion, that in summary, you thought that empathy was all these different things, and you needed to be all these different things in order to be empathetic, you know, like loving, caring, taking care of somebody, doing these things. And you realized that it was really about being present with that person.
So in a way, I understand Hannah in the way that taking care of yourself is already being here with you, not judging, not, you know, like feeling intensely, but not trying to understand, you know, like we always want to understand, have like objectives and you know, like rich goals. But no, like I'm not trying to understand myself. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just here taking care of me.
It's really interesting because you could relate to what Hannah was talking about being present and the importance of being present. And that being present wasn't about taking some type of action to do something for yourself. It's really about being mindful, being present, being here, and experiencing what's happening in that moment.
And I was always so stressed, and I'm easily impressed, and that helped me a lot to balance my life, you know, being like communicating with others or being there with myself. I don't know, empathy changed my life just by giving me the confidence, because I am here.
You had this really interesting experience in that learning to be more empathetic, being present, being here helped to empower you, and that you found that to be filling.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joy. What?
Was I able to capture that?
Yeah. But like the exercise is very difficult. Like I'm losing my English. I'm so stressed. I'm losing my English. And thank you so much. It's not easy. Thank you.
So we just have 4 minutes, Dwayne. Maybe we just do a little debrief. Do you want to just check in, have everyone check in a little bit for the last 3 minutes?
Sure. And like to begin with Bill.
Yeah, I'm just some great ideas. You find that I've done a lot of trainings. You go over the same topics, but each person brings their unique perspective. And I just want to appreciate, all of you here, and especially if you're coming with a language challenge. I'm so appreciative. It shows real courage.
Thank you. Hannah?
Yeah, I I feel really good now. I really enjoyed this. I was a little nervous before because I've attended an empathy circle, but didn't know what to expect from the training. So yeah, but I really enjoyed it, and I found it to be really great discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Marion?
I didn't know what to expect. So when I opened the course, I thought you would be like hundreds, and see tiny faces. And then I saw 5 people, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I would like jump into a circle so quick. Indeed, I feel confident in French with the empathy circle, but like the fact to be in English is the first time I have to express, my feelings. Wow, no, I just didn't expect that. And I spent a few years abroad and traveling, but my English is not, like native or whatever. So I'm glad, to feel how nice people are, when and welcoming. And thank you so much, Edwin, to have written me a quick word and catch up with. Next time I'll be less stressed, I guess, because of your smiles and the atmosphere, and thanks a million for that.
So you'll be taking the next 4 sessions. You'll attend the next 4 sessions.
Yeah.
Okay,
hopefully.
great. Yeah, I'll put you on the list here. Great.
Thank you. Edwin? Is there anything
I'm we had some challenges. The first it's a little nervous, but with someone was having trouble connecting, and she emailed me and stuff. So I hope we can work that out. But I really enjoy it. I'm really excited about the learning process, and we have 30 seconds. Yeah, go for it. Join.
Okay. I really enjoyed this experience today. It's really relaxing when Bill and Edwin are in the room, so I feel at home. And I've interacted with Hannah before, so it was really great to see her again, and also to get to know Marion a little bit. And I look forward to the next opportunity to learn more about everyone. And I enjoy this process and the magic of it. So thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah. So we got about 30 seconds before everyone joins us again.
Well, let me see. Aaron and I got in. Where's the other? I have to go back and get them.
Everyone will come automatically. They'll be forced.
Yeah,
forced back in here in 9 seconds.
I hit return and let's see here.
Here we go.
Meeting is being recorded.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Brother Ralph, you're up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get my screen here going. And we're up to 30 seconds, Edwin?
Yeah, about 30 seconds, 30 seconds to a minute max. I think we can manage that.
Okay, and I'm going to start with the participants, and if there's time, go to the trainees. So, wow, my head is still spinning. My heart is very full, and I'd like to call on you each in turn of participants to ask you to check in on your heads and hearts from that experience. And by my screen, I'm going to do it this way. If I could start with you, Hannah, and then move to Marion.
Just reflecting on my experience, right? Or
yeah, please.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was a bit nervous before this because I've attended the Empathy Circle before, but haven't, didn't know what to expect from the training. But I really enjoyed the whole discussion and thought of new values as well that I hadn't thought of before. Like things like kindness, openness, self-love, presence. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you, Marion, and then Katherine.
Quickly, so I jumped in the circle and I was very impressed, being my first empathy circle in English. But then I experienced openness, kindness, and yeah, the love through the heart. Even though we're far away from each other, then you can feel, how good it is to feel understood by someone so far away but so kind. So yeah, for the little part I took part for the little talk, the short talk I took part in. It was a good experience. Thanks.
Merveilleux. Katherine, and then Kara.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll definitely add on to what Marion said. It's striking when you have people who are bringing themselves forward. So values we spoke about were courage and authenticity, and also learning, I guess, open-mindedness, coming into both hear fully another person's experience, but for the speaker to be fully vulnerable and authentic with what they're saying, and really reaching in to express that, and how much more rich that experience is, and how quickly you can feel a connection with someone you've never met when that happens.
Wonderful. Kara, and then Aaron.
I coached, and we talk a lot about value, and since this was about values, I'm going to use that word. The value I continue to get from these experiences is sort of a validation of the human experience, that your strengths and your weaknesses are there and reflected and fine and good and wonderful and awful and terrible and awesome.
Thank you. That covers a lot of ground. And then Aaron, you're taking care of yourself. And then after you, Linda, please.
So the three values I picked were courage, compassion, and wisdom. Spoke about how compassion can be seen as like suffering together with someone, and how that's kind of what we're doing when we're empathizing. And it takes a lot of courage because you might be in a nice place and comfortable, and someone else is suffering, and it takes a lot of courage to leave your nice little bubble to get into someone else's feeling tone and be with them. And wisdom spoke about I reflected on the idea that if everyone had more wisdom, and if we imparted more wisdom, empathy becomes a very logical choice, and it stops being an opinion or a belief, perhaps. And then we also spoke about the fact that wisdom is applied knowledge. But yeah, really a wonderful experience, and it warmed up through the process. And
thank you.
Out of it. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Linda Curry, and then Elizabeth.
Yeah, it was really bonding, and I feel like it's a gift to speak and be heard, and to reflect on each other, as human beings on this planet in this time. So thank all of you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and then Jeremy.
First, I'd like to say thank you, Linda, because she is the person who told me about empathy circles while we were talking about Transitions US. So thank you. I found it a wonderful experience. It's made me think a lot. We all were, you know, it's a diverse group, and it just really pointed out how much we have in common. Our fears, our joys, all of it seems really rooted in the same kinds of issues. And so that was wonderful. It also answered, well, it brought me closer to the answer to a question about people saying, oh, well, when you empathize, you have to put yourself in that person's shoes. And that's never seemed adequate, because when you put yourself there, you always think you would do differently in those shoes than the person. So I think this is an attempt to put yourself into that person. Just be that person for a minute or two or whatever, and see what experience has done for that person or has done to that person. Thank you. It was wonderful.
Terrific. Thank you. Jeremy and then Andrea.
Thank you. So yeah, I always find these empathy circles to be such a gratifying experience. My values were diversity, inclusivity, and love. And we didn't get to all of them, but I think that just every time I do these empathy circles, I talk to different people who come from different walks of life, but we all find this underlying like common humanity and longing just for connection and to be heard and just understood. And, you know, I found a lot more of that today. And I was just so happy to relate with other people. And I almost felt like people were just reading my mind, you know, and saying things that I have been feeling for so long and have been struggling to find the right language or discourse to kind of communicate. So, yeah, and I think that it just speaks to the beauty of diversity, you know, that we all come from so many walks of life, but we just relate on so many different issues. So, yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. And Andrea and then Karen.
It was wonderful, and I think focused on courage and also quite a lot of things about confusion came up as well. Courage and confusion, and the fact that it's okay and not to worry about anything.
Lovely. Thank you. And Karen and then Faith.
Thank you. Yes, that's already magic. How the connection happens so easily during an empathy circle. Yes, because there is this trust, because we are all authentic at that moment. And yes, that's very powerful to give some empathy to someone and to receive empathy as well. And I realize how the debate can drain a lot of energy all the time. So I really need some empathy in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Faith and then Altonya.
Yes. Well, you know, our circle was awesome, capital letters. There was so much that came out of it. For me, one of it was that we say we have maybe the top 3 values, but we have so many values that are at the top because they are also interrelated as it pertains to empathy. So that was one thing that we kind of walked away with, and just sharing in terms of just how do we
being recorded.
Implementing this in our lives. And we had a member of our group who actually kind of gave us an analogy of a book that actually helped to really, for me, help me to see how I can actually be more empathetic in my life when I'm interacting with people. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Altonya and then Ruth.
Yeah, it was
talked a lot about wisdom, honesty, courage. What I like about this process is that that when you're honest and when you hear other people being honest, you have to be honest with yourself first. You can be honest with anyone else, and this process helps you to do that. It helps you get connected to your thoughts and your feelings. And in doing so, it helps you to connect to someone else's thoughts and feelings because you have to really pay attention to them. This process also makes it okay to make mistakes. So if you haven't really heard someone correctly, the person can just repeat themselves and just say, well, not quite, but this is what I was trying to say. So it gives you another opportunity to really hear them. So I know for me, I don't like to be wrong, and I definitely don't like to make mistakes. But that's because of things that happened with my upbringing. I had to be like a little perfect child and stuff. So it feels good to be in a process where you don't have to be perfect. Just be yourself and allow others to be themselves. So that's what I like about the process.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Ruth and then Swan.
Thanks. Yeah, it was an awesome group. So my 3 values were honesty, integrity, and beauty. And in a way, I just mentioned one, but all of them came up. And yeah, we did see how interrelated our values are. And it was just a lovely group. It was very practical as well as, we discussed what was in our heads and in our hearts and in our bodies as well, which was, it was amazing. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Swan and then Dorothy.
Well, this, like I was saying the other time, it's a different experience each time to come to an empathy circle. So obviously it's never boring. And yeah, so it's nice to be able to experience other different types of people and meet new people each time. And we talked about lots of different things, and it's just nice to be in that space where you can be not interrupted or have somebody giving you advice. It's like a unique space to be in.
Thank you so much. Dorothy and then Claire.
So what I found in the group was that through sharing our values or whatever was on our mind, there was that, for me, a sense of discovering how we can expand, there's like an expansion of experience and of understanding, and seeing the other person as if it's a universe unfolding in front of you and then you doing the same. And it's just, for me, it was that feeling of space and discovery and exploration. There's no destination, and it's just being human without worrying so much about being right or wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Claire and then Tracy.
It feels like we started from a place where we were very much in our head, and then we just slowly connected and descended to a place where we were really connected and present to one another. So I think the values that I take away from this was presence, but also we spoke about trust and we spoke about kindness and how they were linked to empathy. Yeah.
Thank you. Tracy and then Arlene.
Thank you. My 3 values were freedom, honesty, and connection. And I spoke about freedom and connection. And for me, I was aware of my thoughts, and I will reflect on some of those as, you know, things that I noticed that I'd like to do a little bit more work on. So that's my internal work. So that's what I got out of today. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoops, jumping around. Did I say Arlene and then Mitch?
You said Arlene first.
Please.
Okay. First, I want to thank Linda Bass and all the people that were in my group. I got so much satisfaction out of all of what everybody had to say. And I want to thank Erin for going in bite-sized pieces for me. You really helped me. But there are so many values that we all shared. And one of mine was compassion and the other honesty. And I'm going to try harder to be honest with people rather than tell them what I think they want to hear. So I'm going to work on that. And my main goal is to learn empathy and try to apply it the correct way. So I just want to thank everybody, and Edwin and Bill and Larry. Thank you for being there for me.
All right. Thank you, Mitch, and then Isa.
Okay. At the beginning of this, everybody's, when we switched back to the main room, I lost the video for everybody except myself. So there may have been some confusion with what everybody was saying, but I found that I rebooted and took me out of the room. I came back and now everything looks okay. So if there was anything wrong with my image in the beginning, that was the problem. What I've learned through these sessions, which I enjoy very much, is that there's more in common with us than I expected. The specific issues that people talk about may be different. Specifically, what they're going through, what they talk about might be expressed a little bit differently than I would. But when I think about it, they're all common themes that I struggle with as well, although the specific issues aren't the same. The doubts, the process are all very similar. And so I come away thinking we have more in common than differences. And I want to thank everybody in the circle today and in past circles, and Edwin for making this possible. So thank you all today. It was very meaningful for me.
Thank you, Mitch. Isa and then Valerie.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. So for me, it was a very healing experience being with others in the group. I felt like there was a lot of growth going on, a lot of kind of realizing it takes courage to be honest and also to allow another person to be themselves and to receive the way they want to receive whatever we are giving, and also for us to be open. So it was very alchemical and transformational. And I felt that we all grew together in the group. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Valerie.
Yeah, hi. So I wanted to say that well, the values that I chose were mutuality and curiosity that I spoke about, and sort of came around to that these really help to raise the authenticity in terms of connecting with people, but also just that it's really nice to just in this empathy circle to be heard without sort of the typical rationalization that someone might respond with, or the rearrangement of sort of someone else's narrative put onto what you said. It's just a nice way for someone to just hear what you're saying. And also it's such a nice opportunity to just be quiet and listen, and what a privilege that is, and what a nice space it is to be in inside my body, to just listen and to experience that, you know, when hearing someone else speak. And so that's always a lovely opportunity that I enjoy participating in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other participants that I haven't called on? Well, I'll admit to making a mistake. I didn't refer us to the 3 qualities, but I think things turned out pretty good. We have a few more minutes. Edwin, what should I do?
We can do the trainees. Will be good to hear.
Okay. Thank you. So let me, let's see, I'm going to call on Dwayne and then Linda Bass.
Today was incredibly challenging and very rewarding. I started out this morning in Houston, and I got up at 4:30, left about 5:15 to drive to New Orleans and to be in a space that I could attend the training. And I'm really glad that I showed up, and I had a really enjoyable experience. And it's interesting because I used it again as a learning opportunity. There's always challenges in life, and I make the choice about how I show up and how I experience anything. And so even though I didn't have very much sleep, and I arrived here 15 minutes before the class started, I was able to, compose myself and have an enjoyable experience. And I just want to thank Hannah, Bill, Edwin, and also Marion for contributing to that experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Linda and then Johnny. Linda Bass.
Yes, as usual, it was a good circle. The values that we discussed, they were, as I was listening, I realized they're all interconnected or interrelated or whatever. So whether it's honesty or wisdom or compassion, trust, whatever, they're all connected. They're all connected, and kind of hard to have one without the other. So it's just a nice pot of soup.
I'll have some. Johnny, please.
All right, I'm here. Well, one of the common themes that I saw that interested me was that we talked a lot about personal vulnerability and how vulnerable you have to be to go through this process if you're going through it the right way. It was kind of refreshing to see that everybody kind of understood that in the beginning. So it gave us a nice foundation to start the rest of the conversation. So just as successful as the last one. So I really appreciate the opportunity. That's all.
Okay. I'm the last trainee. Carl Rogers used to say, the more personal we would go, the more universal we would discover our connections. And that was true in my group, and I can see that it was true in yours. And I'm just thrilled to be part of this. That's it. Edwin?
Okay. Yeah, Bill's going to do the closing.
Great.
So I'll review what we did. We reviewed the core values of a culture of empathy. We explored how our values related to empathy and a culture of empathy, and we participated in an empathy circle. Next week, you'll each practice facilitating a mini empathy circle. You want to get familiar with the how to facilitate an empathy circle instruction, which there are many videos and also PDF on the site. The assignments, we'll send out an email. Remember, first of all, to fill out the session feedback survey. The link will be in the chat. And then we're going to hold an empathy buddy call. There's a web page that explains it and will be in the email. It's important to have support as a facilitator so that you don't feel the burden upon yourself alone. And the benefits of the buddy call are to have people to co-facilitate with, and also this is part of building, connection with other people and the support group. If you can facilitate an empathy circle of family or friends. Now we're going to go to, are there any, first of all, before I go, I just want to make sure that Edwin gets a chance to make his 2 announcements here. So go ahead, enter about the link contact.
Yeah, so I'll be sending out an email with the assignments to do that Bill just mentioned, and the empathy buddy pairing. So you'll have those. Also, I'll send out a link to if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, you can invite others to the intro cafes. And we have this Thursday, we have Bill is leading an education, how to bring empathy circles into the education field, into schools, and we'll send that to the discussion list. And Saturday, we have an intro cafe at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is the same time we met today. And then later in that afternoon, we'll have a democracy circle. So we're using the empathy circle to discuss the book called On Tyranny and how do we strengthen democracy. And empathy and dialogue in these circles are really core to democracy in general. So it's really the foundation. So those are the main things I had to share.
Okay, and in closing, I'll just ask if there are any trainers that have any final comments. I don't see any.
Okay. Oh, I did put the feedback form into the chat, so it is there if anyone wants to. You can open that. It'll be in the email that goes out, but you can also open it now and fill that out afterwards.
Okay. Any?
Just quickly, Bill.
Sure, Anne.
I'd just like to appreciate everybody for coming and taking part and stepping into this, but especially the people who were in my little group, which was just wonderful. It's brilliant.
Great. Any other? Sure. Celine, Larry, any other?
Empathy is the beginning of civilization. Let's get started.
Okay. And I saw Celine, you were muted. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say ditto to what Anne said. Thank you for your really showing up with sincerity and with your vulnerability, everybody. Beautiful group.
And I just want to add my appreciation for people for whom English is not a first language, and the extra courage that takes, and your ability, your willingness to take that risk really supports me in taking my risk. So thank you so much.
And post one.
Oh yeah, we gotta do jazz hands.
No.
What did I miss?
Yeah, just post one feeling that you have into the chat, and then we're going to end. Yes, with if your camera is off, if you could turn it on just for this minute, so that we can get a portrait of everyone.
Okay, so one feeling word in the chat: appreciation, inspired, energized, happy, peace, happiness. All right, gratitude. All right.
Jazz hands.
All right,
jazz hands.
Yay.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
See you next week.
Bye.
See you online.
Bye-bye. See you.
And if you're a trainer or trainee, stay back. We'll have a short debrief.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.